My brothers and sisters, the Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. Jesus again left the district of Tyre and went by way of Sidon to the Sea of Galilee, into the district of the Decapolis. And people brought to him a deaf man who had a speech impediment and begged him to lay his hand on him. He took him off by himself, away from the crowd. He put his finger into the man's ears and, spitting, touched his tongue. Then he looked up to heaven and groaned and said to him, "Ephphatha," that is, be opened. And immediately the man's ears were opened, his speech impediment was removed, and he spoke plainly. He ordered them not to tell anyone, but the more he ordered them not to, the more they proclaimed it. They were exceedingly astonished, and they said, "He has done all things well. He makes the deaf hear and the mute speak." The Gospel of the Lord.
Greetings of peace and goodness to you, my friends. Some time ago, a story from somewhere in the internet was forwarded to me. It is proclaimed to be a true story. Of course, it's a true story, because everything on the internet is true, right? Anyway, it's worth telling. It goes like this. A baby girl was born critically ill and placed in the neonatal ICU. The pediatric specialist said there was very little hope that the baby would recover. The baby's 5-year-old brother, we'll call him Michael, kept begging his parents to let him see his sister. "I want to sing to her," he kept saying. Now, children were not allowed in the ICU, but Michael's mother kept insisting to the hospital staff that he be allowed to do so. Eventually, permission was given. And when he got to the neonatal crib, that little opening in there, he began to sing. "You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray." The nurse reported that as Michael sang, the baby's pulse rate began to calm down and become steady. "Keep on singing, Michael," encouraged his mother with tears in her eyes. "You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away." The baby recovered and left the hospital 3 weeks later. Whether this story is true or not is not the point. Nor do I claim that Michael's song healed his sister. But we should never, ever underestimate the power of human support and love, because it helps us to be healed. The gospel story of the healing of the deaf and mute man is striking, because it's one of the few stories that we have in the Gospels where the crowd comes and makes a request from Jesus, begging him. This is an understandable given, since the man obviously can't speak for himself. But the scene, as Mark writes it, is very touching. Mark tells us that the crowd brought the man to Jesus, and the people brought him a deaf man who had a speech impediment and begged him to lay his hand on him. And Jesus does so. And he orders them not to tell anyone, but they do so anyway. In our own way, and sometimes in our own poor way, we bring the deaf and the mute to Jesus each time we gather at the Eucharist table. This is what we do when we recite together our prayers of the faithful, or general intercessions as they are called. Now, if these prayers only focused on or attended to the needs of St. Gregory Parish in Williamsville, New York, USA, and never mentioned the needs of the Church Universal or the world about us, if they focused only on the needs of the Catholic world and never on the plight of those in crisis who may not share our faith or hold maybe to another faith or maybe no faith at all, that would say a great deal about our own particular parochial concern, and it would not say something good. It would say something that we are very myopic and very self-centered. The Church has always believed in the power of intercessory prayer. Hence the banquet of candles there in front of the statue of Mary. Not that God needs to be reminded what the world needs. God already knows that. We need to be reminded. Intercessory prayer sorts out for us all other priorities, and it reminds us that there is an existence outside our walls, outside the boundaries of our town, outside our country. And in turn, it helps others to know that we are in solidarity with them in prayer. At the end of this month, on September 28th, we will present and make known and an opportunity for our faithful to come to be aware of a devotion popularized by Pope Francis called Our Lady Untier of Knots. This is not to establish a new tradition in our parish. It's only to help make our parishioners know of this powerful intercessory prayer that Mary has. And there will be more about that in next week's bulletin and following. But we have to pray for those refugees who are in oppression, for the sick and the dying, those deprived of justice and peace and hope. We have to pray for protection of our military and all our law enforcement officers. We have to pray for our support givers, and as well as the respect of all human life. Miracles still happen, my sisters and brothers, when we are with those for whom we hope and pray. Sometimes the first miracle that occurs is that we notice the needs of some who are beyond our immediate circle, and consequently their suffering moves us. And we come to choose to do something to help them. So let us pray together that Christ removes our blindness, that Ephphatha is ours, that we are opened, ears and tongues loosened, so that we can speak for those who have no voice. We can speak to those who are in most need of healing, and bring them not only justice, healing, but also peace. And may the Lord grant you that peace in ways that the world cannot.